Let's talk about the other bubble now, Peter. Stocks. Well, first of all, do you think stocks are in a bubble? Like, I'm gonna bring up an example. I brought in Harry Dent, whom I know you're acquainted with, and he argued for basically the opposite of what you said. We're going to have a deflationary environment, and the stock market is going to pop. He argued it was a bubble. We're going to go down maybe 40% this year, not recover for a long time. Where do you stand on this debate? Where are risk assets headed in 2021?
Well, first of all, I think the dollar is a risk asset. Everybody thinks it's a safe haven. So
I think the bond market would disagree with you, Peter. The bond yields are up.
Yeah, but the bond market is being manipulated by government.
Okay.
I mean, there's not a fair market there. I mean, if it was a fair market, bond prices would be crashing. But the government rigged the market by intervening and buying bonds. But look, I don't think the entire stock market is a bubble. I certainly think that there are a lot of stocks that are in bubbles. But I think there are a lot of stocks that are going to keep going up, maybe not in real terms. Maybe if you price them in gold, but if you price them in dollars, yes, because the dollar is going to lose value faster than most stocks. But there are a lot of stocks that have been hyped up that are trading at prices that are so far out of proportion to any underlying value those companies are likely to have based on what they're likely to earn. So I stay away from these stocks that have ridiculous pie-in-the-sky valuations. I want to buy real businesses that I think are going to do well in the economy globally as I think it's going to evolve over time. And I think it's going to be an economy where America is a much smaller part. I think Americans are going to be diminished in their wealth and purchasing power and stature as the dollar goes down and we move more towards a socialist model than a market-based economy. The dollar is going to go down. U.S. assets are going to be out of favor. I think the emerging markets are going to shine. Standards of living are going to be rising in those countries that have more free market capitalism, more savings and production than the United States. Their currencies are going to rise. The living standards of their citizens are going to rise. The relative values of their assets are going to rise. So I have investments in stocks in emerging markets and developed markets that are going to benefit from this change of trend. We own a lot of commodities. We own gold and silver. We own the mining stocks. So I think we're investing for the world the way it's going to look. Most people are still looking in the rearview mirror and they have no idea what's ahead.
Are there certain sectors you think will outperform this year?
Yeah, well, look, I think value is really starting to come back into vogue. I mean, people have been chasing momentum. There's still a few momentum stocks that are getting the flows, but I think a lot of that is now moving towards better value outside the United States. I mean, you can already see that in the assets that we own. I mean, we're outperforming the S&P nicely so far in 2021. Interestingly enough, it's not my gold stocks that are doing it. It's all my non-gold stocks. Even though the story is more bullish than ever for gold, enough people just don't really get that yet. But I think they will. And I think ultimately it's my gold stocks that are going to end up being my top performers. But for now, it's pretty much everything else that's doing really well. And the gold stocks are lagging a bit.
Do you own any tech stocks?
I do own some, outside the United States, but I mean, most of my positions are not in that sphere because the valuations tend to be very rich. And I am a value guy. I'm looking to buy stuff that's out of favor, that's cheaper. I like good dividends. And so, you don't really find that as much in the tech space. But I do have some stocks that, that are playing into the theme of green energy and electric vehicles. And some of these stocks have really, really done well over the last year or so. So
that was my next question. Green New Deal. What do you think of that? Is that going to boost up copper, nickel, silver, all these base metals? Is that going to help with green energy stocks? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, look, it definitely can't hurt. I mean, it is going to help push up oil prices because I do think the Biden administration is going to increase the cost of domestic production in oil and gas. And, so I think that oil prices are headed a lot higher and we're not going to have the type of production that we had when Trump was president. And so that means $100 oil, which I think we could have again this year. I mean, we're still in the low 50s, but I would not be surprised to see $80 to $100 oil by the end of the year. The difference this time is going to be, we're going to be importing all that oil. We're not going to be producing a lot of it ourselves like we were before. A lot of money was lost in the oil and gas sector in the United States during the last fracking boom. So the bust is not going to be replaced by another boom. But I think the Biden administration will make it even more expensive to drill and explore and produce. So that's going to be cut down. Yeah. But the Green New Deal is going to be a drag to the extent that any of it is enacted. It is going to hurt the U.S. economy. It just makes a weak economy even weaker to have to cripple it with all these new rules and regulations. And to the extent that we make the cost of energy higher than it otherwise would be, we simply make the U.S. economy even less efficient and less productive, and we're more reliant on the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is going to be less and less willing to subsidize our consumption because we keep buying their stuff with depreciating dollars that at some point are just going to completely collapse.
Yeah, okay. So my final question to you, Peter. We started with policy. I like to end it with policy. Look, you don't agree with Biden's fiscal stimulus. You don't agree with the universal basic income. What would you do if you were in office? President Schiff, what would President Schiff do to pass legislation to make American lives better?
Well, you know what? We don't need any new legislation. We need to get rid of all the existing legislation. So if I was president, I would just veto everything. It's interesting that Donald Trump vetoed fewer bills. In fact, if you want to find a president that vetoed fewer bills than Trump and who served a full 4-year term, you have to go back to like the 1880s. So Donald Trump pretty much rubber stamped every spending bill that hit his desk, right? You can't drain the swamp, without draining the money. Right. But he continued to fill the swamp with money. So I would veto everything, including, raising the debt ceiling or any of these continuing resolutions. But I would want to dismantle government. So I would use my executive power to eliminate as many laws and regulations and taxes as I could, as president. But by vetoing all the spending, to the extent that I could get, a small portion of one chamber of Congress to sustain my vetoes, then I would force the government to cut spending because they wouldn't be able to get into the spending passed. And I would, of course, use the bully pulpit of the presidency to really articulate to the American public why we're in so much trouble, how their past presidents and politicians have destroyed the economy, and what needs to be done to enable Americans to rebuild what their government destroyed. But there is no solution that's going to come from government. All the solutions are going to come from the people, from the free market. We need people working, producing, and just the government has to get out of the way. But a lot of damage has been done, and we have to acknowledge that. Yeah. And we've got to bite the bullet and accept the losses. We just can't keep blowing bubble after bubble and try to pretend that those losses aren't there by making all the problems bigger and ultimately making the day of reckoning that much worse.
You ever thought about running for office?
Well, I did. Remember, I ran for Senate in Connecticut, but, I didn't win. But look, it's hard to win with the truth. That's the problem with democracy. I mean, usually the guy promising to steal the most money is the big winner because, he's promising to give it to the voters. Look, this last election in Georgia was all about those $2,000 checks. Vote for me and you get a $2,000 check. That's why so many people voted Democrat, because they wanted $2,000. They said if you vote Republican, you don't get $2,000. You vote Democrat, you get $2,000. Yeah. Well, most voters would rather get $2,000 than nothing. So they voted Democrat. So look, it's hard to win in a battle of free stuff. My message is freedom. I'm not giving anything to anybody because the government doesn't have anything. All the government can do is steal from one person and give to somebody else. But see, I think theft is wrong. I don't want to steal from anybody. I want to protect everybody so that people don't steal from them. Just protect their liberty, protect their life, protect their property. That's what government's supposed to do. It's not supposed to try to micromanage the economy, which is unfortunately what our leaders are trying to do, but they're following the blueprints of the socialist economies. And, you can see how every time that's been tried, it's failed. It's unfortunate that we keep repeating the mistakes of the past instead of recognizing what did work and allowing that to continue, which is free market capitalism.
All right, let's follow up on that another time. And if you ever do run again, let me know. Thank you very much, Peter.
I guess I will. If I do run again, I'm going to have to self-finance. I didn't like the campaign finance, and I put a lot of money into my initial campaign, but I also raised a lot of money. But if I do it again, I pretty much will need to pay for it myself. So, which I might be willing to do. But, I guess the presidency is more expensive than running for the Senate. So gold prices are going to have to be a lot higher before I can finance my own presidential campaign.
Yeah. Would you still be able to run your business if you were in office?
Well, look, I don't know. I mean, I guess, look, Donald Trump had a business. Maybe I'd have to win and then see, but I'm not going to speculate because first I got to win.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Anyway, Peter, thank you very much for coming on the show. We'll speak again soon.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you for watching Kitco News. I'm David Lin.